As we head into Election Day, the 2020 vote has already seen more lawsuits filed than any other race, and that number is expected to rise. Just yesterday, a federal court in Texas blocked a Republican motion that would have thrown out more than 100,000 ballots cast at drive-in polls in the Houston area. Today, the GOP is trying to invalidate all drive-in ballots in the state. In Georgia, a federal judge blocked a Democratic lawsuit looking to ease long lines on Election Day, where in previous elections, people have waited for hours to vote. And dozens of lawsuits have also been filed over mail-in voting and the process of counting those ballots. Some of those cases reached the Supreme Court. Pennsylvania, in particular, could be heavily litigated, as that state will not begin to count mail-in votes until Election Day. Governor Tom Wolf is urging patience because it could be days before the final tally is in. Last night, the president said he is ready for the legal fight.
I think it's a terrible decision by the Supreme Court, a terrible decision. Now, I don't know if that's going to be changed, because we're going to go in the night of, as soon as that election's over, we're going in with our lawyers.
For more, let's bring in CBS News election law expert David Becker. He's also the executive director and founder of the Center for Election Innovation and Research. David, welcome. Great to have you with us. So lawyers will not only challenge disputed results, but also battle incidents of voter suppression. What are some examples of the kinds of suppression they will be looking for?
Well, there might be some episodic instances of individuals trying to intimidate voters at the polls, perhaps making voters walk by situations where they feel uncomfortable. But I actually expect those will be very sporadic. The vast, vast majority of voters in the United States will vote in safety and convenience, and actually will probably be able to get in and out of their polling place within 30 minutes. That's what we're going to see probably 99% of all voters see tomorrow, especially with all of the early voting that has occurred. There will be fewer people actually showing up to vote tomorrow to vote.
So, as you mentioned, we've already seen a record number of lawsuits focusing on mail-in voting and absentee voting. Is the prime concern after Election Day making sure that all of these votes are counted?
Yes, that is a major concern, but that is something we've always done. The rules that exist right now for this election in terms of counting all the ballots and taking as long as it needs to take to make sure we validated every ballot and counted them properly and accurately, that's the way we've always done it. We did it that way in 2016 when President Trump won the election. We've done it in every election since then. It's actually very rare that we know the outcome of the election by some arbitrary deadline of election night. Every state has a certification deadline to certify official results later. And so states like Pennsylvania that are beginning to process all of those absentee ballots on Election Day, it's going to take them some time to finish up, and we'll have to see how long that takes and how large the margin is before we know who's won Pennsylvania.
Do we have any estimates of how long that could take?
To count all of the ballots probably will take several days, but it could be that the margin's large enough that we know before then. We could know Wednesday, we could know Thursday, we could know Friday. It really depends mostly on the margin and not so much on the regular process of counting ballots, which every state does.
Okay, now the president says his lawyers are focused on Pennsylvania and Nevada. Are there other potential legal battlegrounds out there?
Well, I mean, any place where it's close, it is a potential legal battleground, but you also have to have a legitimate legal claim. You can't argue that a state should stop counting the ballots, which are legally entitled to be counted, just because the clock has struck midnight in that state. So we should expect that very few of these lawsuits will have much merit. There might be some challenges that occur during the day to individual voters, but so far we haven't seen a ton of challenges of individual ballots. In fact, there was no challenge of any absentee ballot that had been cast by the Friday deadline in Philadelphia. So that's a very good sign. We want this process to go smoothly. We want to see law and order in the polling places and in the counting centers tomorrow.
David, Axios reported President Trump plans to declare victory tomorrow night if it, quote, appears he's ahead of Joe Biden. When do you think, though, that we will actually have the result of the 2020 election?
Well, it's hard to predict because it really depends upon the margin of victory in a lot of the states that will drive the Electoral College. Of course, the president can say whatever he wants, but that doesn't have any legal effect any more than, say, the coach of the Atlanta Falcons could have declared victory in Super Bowl against the New England Patriots when they were up big, and he wouldn't have been awarded the Lombardi Trophy. So I think we'll have to wait and see. But I think there's a very good chance we actually do know on late Tuesday night or early Wednesday morning. But it's possible we might be waiting into Wednesday or Thursday or even Friday, depending how close the margins are.
All right. Well, David Becker, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.